I'm going to begin, James Bobin. I mean, you're obviously a real kind of character director. You work with actors, and we've obviously seen that across your career.
Yep.
This must have presented a whole new challenge for you, because this is all about the kind of the world that we inhabit, isn't it?
Yes. No, the challenge of this film was to kind of pay tribute to Tim's world and the way he created, but also trying to bring something of myself to it, and which you do anyway when you make a movie. But yeah, no, I inherited an incredible cast, and they'd already played these characters. So for me, it was about how to interpret this story to them and have them develop those characters in interesting ways. But at the same time, introducing new characters, because you can't just do the same thing again, like a remix. You want to do something which is actually new. And also, of course, we had the source material to work from, because Lewis Carroll wrote 2 books, and Looking Glass is the second book. And so whilst this story isn't the story of Looking Glass, it is inspired by lots of the world within it.
I mean, is it quite weird having so many characters that aren't kind of tangible? They don't really exist. I mean, you can't touch them or kick them, whatever you choose to do.
You mean animated characters? Yeah, well, for the performers, it's a thing whereby you're either used to it or you're not, and it's a question of just being reminded of it occasionally for in a scene with characters that aren't there. And you do have like on-set proxies, like you have cutouts or like blue models or whatever, so you're reminded they're there, but because they don't talk, they're not people, it's often hard to remember they're there if you're not a regular person who works in CG world.
And what's one of the big challenges? I mean, kind of establishing your own sort of sensibilities as a filmmaker into this world, because obviously we've got the tone and the sort of aesthetic already down, but how did you sort of navigate your way around making this your film?
Well, the aesthetic was one thing, because I felt that that's obviously Tim's design were the parameters within it I had to work, which is great, because I normally feel that I love that world, it looks fantastic. But the tone was a different thing, so I felt that when I read Lewis Carroll as a kid, it used to make me laugh. I thought it was funny. And I love his wordplay, and the characters were amusing to me. And so since I've always been working in comedy for a long time now, that what I want to do is try and bring a bit of that to it. So I think the tone of this film is different to the first one. I hope I do what you think, but it felt like to me it's a little bit lighter, and obviously in a way, an easy way to sell that idea is by casting a comedian in one of the lead roles. And so of course then Sasha comes to mind, because he really, as time, is kind of a comedy bad guy, which is always very interesting.
I mean, the film is completely bonkers, and there's a kind of quite endearing lack of kind of structure to the whole kind of Alice kind of universe. Did that give you quite a lot of license as a filmmaker to kind of go just sort of not do whatever you wanted, but to be a bit kind of creative?
I was very aware of making a story that felt like a story that Lewis Carroll would have approved of, therefore would have some complexity to it and some element of puzzle solving to it. That I know as an avid watcher of movies, I love trying to be ahead of the film and its story. So I always wanted to make those kind of films where you're kind of working out yourself. So that was part of it. At the same time, there's always a danger of making it overly complex. And obviously, I had to make this film for my 8-year-old daughter as much as it was for me. And so that was always very much on my mind. So yeah, you're right. There is a certain amount of leeway because it's Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll's rules are kind of crazy. But at the same time, you have to have a kind of a plot that stands up, that to close inspection, particularly in a time travel movie, which is like there's a black hole of logic issues with all time travel movies. So you have to be careful, because it's got to stand up as a piece. It's got to work as an adventure story, and that's what I'm really pleased with it. It's a complex story, but it kind of you understand it, I think, which is great.
So we're kind of revisiting a lot of Disney classics. I know this is obviously a kind of original film, but I mean, obviously with The Jungle Book recently, we've got Beauty and the Beast. I mean, what do you think it is at the moment? Do you think it's nostalgia? Is that behind this kind of recent surge?
Maybe, but remember when those films were made the first time around, they weren't original properties anyway. They were just cartoon versions of books. So this thing's been going on for a long time. We're just like in a third iteration of that same idea. And who says they're not a fourth iteration in 50 years' time? I don't know. I think more the fact is that these stories are classics that stand the test of time because they're so good and because they speak such eternal truths. These are classic stories, and so they stand up to continual reinterpretation or reimagination. And that's part of it. These stories are very old. Jungle Book's 19th century, Cinderella's 16th century. They're very old stories.
And I was wondering as well, I mean, this is a real kind of feminist blockbuster. We've got a really independent sort of female role lead.
Yeah, it's good.
And I was wondering, because I mean, it's a great role model for kids. I mean, you said sort of your daughter. I mean, it must be so great to have a character like Alice, particularly in the context of the kind of era it's set, leading a film of this nature. Yeah,
and also because I really think we are hopefully portraying Alice as a woman as the girl who is Alice in the books would grow up to be. Because if you look at the history of it, when Alice Liddell, who is the real Alice, was born in 1850, the world was a very different place to it was when she was older in the 1910s. And the generation of women who got the women the vote are her generation. And so that feels very much in keeping with the kind of girl that Alice would grow up to be. And therefore Alice, Amir, in this film, is a girl who's very clear about what she should be allowed to do in the world and what she knows what she wants. And refuses to be put into certain pigeonholes and doesn't care what people think about her. And those things are equally important for girls today as they were then. And it's obviously there aren't that many many films where you have a female lead, and I'm really proud and thrilled to have one.
I'm going to ask you a question I'm sure you haven't been asked at all today.
Yes.
Men in Black 23, of course, is your next project.
No, you're right. I haven't been asked about that.
When I first someone first sort of told me about this idea, I was a little bit apprehensive.
Yes, I understand that.
So can you sell it to me? What can we expect from this?
I'm not going to, because I think that the thing about it is that I love both worlds, so I'm going to be very careful about that. I know what I think is funny, and the script is amazing. And so it's kind of like when you read a script, I totally understand how this is going to work now, so it's fine. But I don't talk about it too much because the fun of it is showing people how it's going to work. So.
And Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones might be back.
Exactly, I can't talk about that.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time anyway.
No, pleasure. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey